Hey everyone, Sean here, and welcome to my review for Toy Story 5. It's a franchise that I really grew in love as a kid, as someone who really played with his toys and such. When it comes, especially like Transformers, the Lego Technic stuff, to be more specific. That was like the later part of my childhood, as I kind of exited the toy era, right? But during my sort of highlights of the childhood years, I did play with Thomas the Tank Engine and like vehicles and dinosaurs and Godzilla, action figures, right? The wrestling figures, of course, like no, WCW more so. I remember I had the Goldberg figure and then like Sting, the what do you call it, the NWO Sting with the red paint, the face paint and everything. He even had like the jacket and stuff. God, I wish I had that toy still, but yeah, it was a good time to be a kid. It was a great time to be a kid, and I'm definitely a lot of good memories. And Toy Story was definitely one of them. And you can kind of say that Toy Story kind of encapsulates that experience and really celebrates the heart of our sort of innocence and such when it comes to making these scenes and fantasies and all this other stuff with the toys, making these toys into these different characters, all kinds of scenarios and all that fun stuff. And Toy Story 5 here, I'm going to go ahead and say it, definitely does that celebration with flying colors. And by comparison to the fourth movie, which I have my grievances about that. I mean, technically, for what it is, it's not a bad movie, but it's a movie that shouldn't have come to light because of how 3 was, right? It's just such a beautiful ending to it. We really wrapped it up nicely and a lot of stuff, and then 4th kind of just ruined it. So I think that's like the stigma that it came with as to why a lot of people don't like it. While it actually isn't that bad of a movie, which I can kind of fall into both sides of it. I mean, but I'm more so like this movie should not have happened because again, 3 was such a perfect ending for it. But for what it is, though, I mean, it establishes some things like the lore and how toys can kind of like establish their independence, right? To rescue other toys and such like that, possibly help out to go to other kids and such, and then the establishment of like how toys like Forky can be made, right? Kids can make these toys as long as they have the imagination. So this is a bit of lore building here in 4, if you want to think about that. But 5 really tackles more so on toys versus the smart devices or the social media stuff, and how much of a turmoil that makes in the movie, and what Bonnie has to go through, right, as this sort of socially awkward kid and such, who still clings on to her toys as a means to make herself happy and such. When, yeah, making friends with kids is definitely a huge part of a child's life. So there's that, and then this movie definitely is more about Jesse, and more so than anything. For those who really like Woody and Buzz, yeah, I mean that could take a little hitch on that, but for what it was, though, I actually enjoyed the movie as I watched this on Tuesday night with the theater experience, with the Dolby Cinema dressing and everything. So the picture and the sounds were great. That all that stuff was lined up. The theater experience of itself was good because it's a late night showing, so it's not that many people. But like I I saw some kids in there with their families, and then but they were very quiet. But when the movie was like going on, like they were noisy during the trailers, which is fine. And when the actual movie was on, they were just locked in. They were locked into their seats and saw the movie and looked like they enjoyed it. I mean, none of the kids were like bored. Unlike I remember when I was watching what was it, Age of Ultron or whatever for Avengers. there was like some kids that were like running up and down the steps or whatever, so they were not into the movie. But when it comes to Toy Story, that's more of their stuff. It seems like, right? So it's nice to see that's the effect it had on these kids in a good way, right? So it really doubles down on the fact that this is a good movie, you know. And again, I did enjoy it. It was really cute. It's really funny, really like warm-hearted overall. It does have the heart and the passion, and it really celebrates the toys beautifully. While it does stereotype social media stuff quite a bit here. It also brings in the highlights of having these devices, right? Because there is a time for them, and it helps connect with kids in a way. It helps them keep connected, right? When they're in their house. But when that's the majority of the time when they're together, that's where it gets a little hairy, right? And that's when you should go outside, play with your toys with the kids and whatever, right? It doesn't even have to be toys. It's just be together, right? Play ball or football, whatever, right? Just whatever it takes to have fun outside. Whereas if you're just inside all the time, then it's not exactly healthy. Even when you're playing with your toys all the time by yourself, not exactly also healthy either. So there's like this weird balance that you gotta hit, and I think the movie does a pretty good job telling these sides, right? Even sometimes with toys, it's not exactly healthy either, because you're not interacting with people, right? And even like the toys are trying to get Bonnie to make friends, and that's like the whole premise, is to make friends, right? But of course the social media stuff does conflict with that in a way. Lily Pad is that basically antagonistic, I could call her that, but she had intentions of trying to make Bonnie friends, so it's doing the right thing but in the wrong way, right? So that's kind of the big theme to take away from in a gist, right, for this movie. And I think, again, this movie does it beautifully. While at that, I mean, there were great sequences in here, including the imagination stuff. You can really get to see the art style of two things, right? So you can see the reality and then the imagination, and the imagination scenes were great. I mean, I love the art style for what it is. Maybe they could do things a little differently in the future, because that's honestly kind of appropriate, because as kids grow older, their imaginations tend to get warped and stuff like that. So maybe the art style can reflect that in some way in the future. But anyway, so those scenes were great. I mean, whenever Bonnie was playing with her toys, in this case, a wedding between two characters, it's great. And then she even made some drama, right, within the wedding scene. It's great. Great way to sort of like remind ourselves how we play with our toys, the sort of nostalgia, right, in the right way, of course. And it just gives us a nice reminder of the good times as a kid and playing with our toys, and how makes fun in a good way of how to make these scenes and make these characters into these different entire things. Like you have these action figures having a wedding with your other toys, and what the possibilities are like out there, right? Again, it does that beautifully. So the toys themselves were fun. Again, like this is a story about Jessie, so again, a huge focus on her. Because honestly, we've already gone through it with Woody and Buzz, so it's only fair to see Jessie in the mix. As someone who was passed on the role of being the main toy, the leader, right? It was passed on by Woody to Jessie, so it only makes sense that she gets the focus rather than Woody and Buzz. But Buzz also is kind of like the secondary one. And he's trying to build up the courage to, propose to Bonnie. And then I guess like when it comes to that stuff, it's kind of, I guess this adds to the lore that toys can kind of create these sort of marriage or whatever, like this bond, this permanent bond forever, and until something does them apart, right? Whether they get sold off or whatever, garage sale or donations, right? Because the humans don't know that. I mean, they're the ones who decide who's what and what's what and all that stuff and what happens to them, unfortunately. But that's just kind of how it goes. That's the rules, right? Kind of, including being still when the humans see the toys. You can't see them when they're moving. The only exception, of course, is Sid. I mean, he's the only one who has seen the toys move. And they gave him a wake-up call, probably, right? And forever, he just does not want to see a toy move like that ever again. Which I did really wanted to see when Sid made a cameo, and I think it was like 3 or 2 or something like that. I think it was, no, 3, when he's the garbage man. But yeah, so the sort of turmoils and developments that Jesse goes through was great. I mean, I think it was told rather nicely. As a movie itself, the pacing was pretty good. The only spastic feeling I got was from the beginning when they were really showing off the multi-buzzes, which honestly I think didn't come together completely like 100%. Like they're kind of just there for the conveniences overall, but it is funny to see the Buzz Lightyear toys getting the update so that they can connect with the smart devices, which, yeah, it's funny. It kind of like ties in with Toy Story in the modern times in a way. So Buzz Lightyear is sort of that device to do that, and then like you see how Buzz Lightyears can kind of connect with like the social media. It all works with the cloud, and then there's the lily, the what do you call the pond, right? That's the cloud, and then it kind of parodies a lot about like the cloud system and like how these smart devices can, like come together and connect and all that stuff, and it all like comes together. Funny enough. Now, besides Jesse going through a pretty good like character arc, there are a lot of cool new toys that were introduced here, including even like the Smarty Pants one, which is basically this like toilet training device, which I guess it technically counts as a smart device, I guess, in some way. But although it kind of like beyond what these type of toys can do. As it was like able to connect with the social media stuff somehow. It's very weird, but okay. It was able to like connect with like the camera toy and then the GPS toy, the Hippo one, made into just like this smart device essentially, which is kind of weird, but alright. That's really much what it is, because the phone is like this. Of course, it can talk to you, of course, with Siri, and then you get the camera, and then you have the GPS in there. So it's like it's kind of this funny amalgamation parody thing almost, if you want to really think about it, of the smartphone, and they all connected together with the cable and everything. It's actually kind of funny now that I think about that. But yeah, those new the new toys were great. Also in their own right. Even like Combat Carl makes a little bit of a cameo sort of appearance, which is a nice callback to the first Toy Story in a way, because Woody had the thing with Lenny. He looks to Lenny, and then he says the line. He's like, "Oh no, it's a Combat Carl," as Sid is about to blow up the broken, beaten up Combat Carl with the firecracker and everything. And so that was, again, that was a nice little callback, along with these other weird toys, including the pizza with the sunglasses, which apparently is Bad Bunny or something like that. I think it is. I don't know. I'm really behind when it comes to the new toy stuff, or the new people stuff, like musicians and stuff like that. But when it comes to other toys, it's pretty funny. Especially the ones that are like abandoned or thrown away in the backyard, like those made them a funny sort of appearance. And the other toys that made it into the Tea Party, and even like the Goopy hand plays some sort of role. It's pretty funny. It's kind of like in the background, but also kind of important in a way. And then you have the horses, right? Which I honestly is such a funny coincidence, because I have this horse kick right now because of Uma Musume. So it's actually kind of nice to see horses make it into play. And then there's a pig that's named Jimmy Dean. It's pretty funny of itself. Like a lot of these characters did kind of made a good impression, if that's a way to take away from in this movie. And now, speaking of the characters, right? The humans were actually really, really good in this one, by I guess comparison. I mean, I guess 3 might be the other good one, but 3 really like highlights the humans in this one, including Bonnie and including the new character named Blaze. I actually really enjoyed Blaze. She's kind of like this very good in between of the sort of like the enjoyer with toys, but also who's tied to social media. Very mature for her age. I don't know how old she is. They never like really discuss how old these characters are, but you can kind of tell like, oh, Bonnie's kind of like around 8 or below, and then Blaze is more like 9 or 10 or something like that. A little older, definitely older, but she definitely acts older. She's more adept, right, to what's around her, and she's very like nicely aware and does handle things rather like maturely, right? Like she's very level-headed by comparison to a lot of the kids, but there are level-headed kids out there. So Blaze is kind of like that personification of that, pretty much. So actually, very enjoyable character, along with her mom and everything. And then her dad is kind of like in the background. He's like the one that's like very like tied to the social media stuff, but I think it's also his job or something. He was like in some online meeting or whatever, so it like kind of like connects with how how prominent the social media stuff is, but at the same time, someone like Blaze still holds on to the toys, right, as a way to show who she is in a way. And yeah, so she's just this very warm-hearted girl who loves animals, including the horses. She has a pet pig and everything, Jimmy Dean. Just very great character all around, and very like full of heart. Like you definitely want to protect her kind of vibes, along with Bonnie. And especially what she goes through, right? Very, very sad, very heartbreaking, you can call it that. It's just it also highlights like the horrible aspects of social media as well. It really like does a very good job like portraying social media. It's not just like this stereotyping, a complete stereotype of social media. It actually does a good job of showing both the good and the bad of social media. So this movie does things more ways than one in a good way. So honestly, it's more of an effective movie than anything. So yeah, the human characters are great. Even the parents of Bonnie were good. I mean, the mom especially is really good, and the dad is kind of just trying to be there to do good things, good intentions, but is the one that kind of stirs the pot in a way, for the sake of the writing, right? Because he's the one who bought the lily pad, and lily pad is also someone with good intentions, but ultimately does it the wrong way, because of how Bonnie works. And Lily Pad doesn't really do a good job on that part, so that's why that's why it creates problems and such. She definitely comes off as like a know-it-all, and it kind of bites her in the butt at some point in the story. When it comes to the rest of the characters, a lot of the rest of the toys are kind of just like cameos, or sort of a very side-esque sort of roles, including the rest of the toys, including Slinky, Rex, Mr. Potato Head, even Ham and the rest of those guys are very much to the side, besides just being there for the sake of the imagination scenes. They don't really do a whole lot, unfortunately, in this one either. It's really all about Jesse and then Buzz and then Woody and such. So again, Woody is very off to the side as well. He just comes in at some point to help out, but he's unfortunately, out there as what Ford wrote for him, right? What Toy Story did for what that movie did for Woody. That's kind of like the negative, I guess you could say about this movie, is that it sacrifices a lot of these other toys to really focus on Jessie and her sort of character arc, and then but Bullseye is just there to help her out too, like a supplemental role for Jessie, and definitely like her best friend, right? But yeah, when it comes to the other toys, once again, the horse toys were funny in their own way, especially this like glamorous unicorn-looking horse. I mean, I don't think it was a unicorn, but it had like wings. It was like purple, like this glamoring horse, and had an eye on Buzz Lightyear at some point for some reason. It's just, I don't know. It's just for comedic effect, I guess. But anyway, so that was pretty funny. But when it comes to the other part, which is the multi-Buzz Lightyears, right? They're really trying to make this fit, because I understand that there's a bit of a story behind it, where there's supposed to be a Toy Story movie, and now it's supposed to be, like, of course, one of the sequels, that the Buzz Lightyears go through like the recall, they all malfunction, and then probably like the story of itself was a little too dark or something like that, so they probably like scrapped it ultimately. But they, I guess they really wanted to implement it somehow, so that's why they put it into here in this movie now. But honestly, I think it definitely doesn't completely win me over. I kind of wish they did go with that darker storytelling with the recall and everything. But yeah, they were kind of used in the beginning, and then that part was kind of like spastic. That was like the most spastic pacing of the entire movie. Otherwise, the rest of the movie, the pacing was fine, honestly. But like the inclusion of the multi-buzzes was kind of just like, okay, it's cute, but ultimately for me, it doesn't completely 100% win me over, just because of how much it felt of them just being there for the sake of like this point of the story. You know what I mean? It doesn't quite like bring them together as characters. I mean, there is a part where there was a heartwarming moment with one of the Buzz Lightyears, and maybe it's just like a nice side plot to the story, like a side quest almost, because yeah, like these Buzz Lightyears were on demo mode or whatever, or they're like, they're in that Buzz Lightyear mindset, and they're like discovering, that, well, they're toys, right? It's that repeating thing with Buzz Lightyear, and then the Buzz Lightyear has to explain to them who they really are at some point. But it doesn't quite bring them in as characters. They're just there as devices, more than anything. Well, I guess that's like a funny little pun or whatever, because they are devices as they are updated for today's standards with the whole smart device integration thing. So yeah, because like they even have like the modern stuff in there too, which kind of works honestly if these were like brought into reality, I guess. But they would be expensive toys though. I don't like, bro. These have to be very expensive toys. But I guess that's like the plot hole, right, as convenience within that world, I guess. But anyway, okay, so rambling kind of bit. But anyways, the multi-buzzes are, I don't hate them, but at the same time, doesn't quite, do it like it did with Blaze, Bonnie, and Jessie, and all the other characters. But and especially even with Smarty Pants and stuff like that. But yeah, but that's all fine. Like it's still fine. The music was all right. I think it is Randy Newman back into the mix, but the music was kind of just there for this time around. There's no like, you got a friend in me kind of moment, or there's another song in the first movie. It's like Space, or something like that. You're not gonna hear Randy Newman sing a whole lot, if not at all, because I honestly it kind of just blended in with the background. But I guess it does the job, but like it just doesn't. It wasn't as memorable, I guess. And I guess that's all right, but at the same time, could have added to the positives, right? But it's not bad. The main song though is with Taylor Swift, and well, I mean, I guess that's good for people who like Taylor Swift, but I'm completely indifferent about her. I'm just very out of it when it comes to the modern music. And I know, like, what's his face? I heard that Bad Bunny was in there. I think I said it before, but the Bad Bunny stuff, I guess he was voicing the pizza with the glasses or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Otherwise, yeah, it's such a small role. It's like, okay, whatever. The rest of it was, when it comes to the voices, was completely fine. It's great to hear Tom Hanks, Tim Allen making it back into as Buzz. There was a bit of a riff when it came to Tim Allen and his opinion on things. And then there's a thing about Chris Evans taking on the role of the solo Buzz Lightyear movie, which is supposed to be like this in-universe Buzz Lightyear, right? And I don't know how that turned out, but it wasn't, I guess, that great. So there's a bit of a worry about that, but he's back in there nonetheless, so it's great. Once again, I think Jessie is voiced by the same person, Joanne Cossack, so it's nice. Rex is still Rex. Of course, Don Rickles is gone because he's no longer with us, unfortunately. Mr. Potato Head is voiced by somebody else, along with a number of people. And that's essentially, that when it comes to the voice roles. The voicing was just great, though. I like Conan O'Brien, which I didn't even know it was Conan O'Brien, honestly, until after the fact, as Smarty Pants. I think the voice for Smarty Pants was great. It worked. I think it was fine right there. But when it comes to everything else, the story, the writing, and everything, the dialogue, all fantastic, along with the pacing and everything. Nothing weird about Jessie and stuff like that. I mean, even with the crash out moment with one of the characters, honestly, valid, understandable. I disliked it at some point, but I understand. Understandable. It wasn't like out of the realm or anything like that. Yeah, that's really much it. That's pretty much all I have. Even like Lily Pad, I mean, I was annoyed by her, but that's the whole point, right? Great character arcs, great wrap up to the story. Yeah, it was a great movie overall. On top of the whole movie theater experience, was great. So with all that into account, I'm going to definitely give this movie an 8 out of 10. I think honestly, it's a solid movie for everybody, kids, adults, all alike. Go ahead and give it a watch. Honestly, it's such a hard pass. Honestly, definitely watch this over other such movies right now, and then go watch the other movies. But yeah, no, Toy Story 5, definitely go out and watch it. It's really good. I guess you could call it a redemption, but at the same time, yeah, I don't know. For really did not need to happen, But at least Bonnie here is likable. I mean, she definitely grew up a bit here, at least. Blaze was great. All that fun stuff. So I liked it. I definitely enjoyed it. I had a good time. The only funny thing about the theater was that the dude next to me actually fell asleep. So he was the adult dude fell asleep, but the kids were locked in. Like they're just like, I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna enjoy the movie, and yeah. And then they were happy by the end. Like they're just all like jumping with joy, like with all the credit during the credits and everything. And by the way, the credits are cute. I think like, do you really need to watch the credits? I mean, One of them, yes, but like the ending credits, like okay, it's cute, it's cute. That's all it is. So it doesn't give any hints about like all the next movie, but the crew, like the production crew, already kind of gave hints that they do want to have 6 and 7 being done because apparently it had ideas for that happening during the development of 5. So there is room for possibility. There's gonna be another trilogy. Jesus Christ, like already, plus 7, like apparently. So it's like, wow, that's something, I guess. So we'll have to see. I mean, we'll definitely have to see for another like several years, and we'll see where Toy Story winds up. And so, but Toy Story is great again. Definitely one can say. So other than that, yeah, that's all I have. And I'm gonna go ahead and do some of the spoilers because there is one particular spoiler scene that actually made me emotional a little bit on the inside, welling up a bit, stirring up some feelings and stuff like that. It was very heartfelt, right? Very heartfelt moment, and honestly, really good. So, yeah. So thank you, like and subscribe. Really helps out, and I do appreciate it. If you've watched the movie already, go ahead and throw that in the comment section below about anything related to this movie. Really helps out, and I do appreciate it. So I'll likely do the spoilers in a separate video. So tune in for that. And thanks. And hopefully I will see you all in the next one. Ciao now.